you're up against a Lux now, so there's some extra shielding that has to be considered here when we're talking about the damage, some of the damage mitigation against the Equalizer. There's a lot of range that you're going to have later on in this. Lux can root from very far away. You have Senna, who's going to obviously extend her range as the game goes on. And then KT have some pretty decent engages. I think the odd man out of this one is once again going to be the Volley Bear. It just doesn't really feel very strong. Can be used to gank early against Faker. And in this top matchup, like if Jace is pushing really hard, you have an opportunity to maybe get some kills there. But the clear time that he doesn't have means that he's going to be so reliant on making those picks happen. So this is a game that I think Blank is really going to have to sink or swim in. Very much so. If he does okay, it's not good enough. Like he has to excel.
His early game really needs to be on point, because if you let this draft go free into the mid game, I mean, go next.
Yeah.
I just, this is just insane in terms of the amount of poke and range and damage, mobility that you have, map presence. Like you can engage probably 7 different ways. From so many different angles. I really like T1's draft, whereas, as you mentioned, there are pieces of KT's draft that kind of seem a little bit out of touch.
The Viego can be very good if he can get those resets, though.
Can be.
And, with Lux's ultimate, like, sometimes you can get people low enough to get those happening.
Their comp is definitely like, we're going to try to isolate one person out of position and blow them up.
Yeah.
And try to snowball that and get resets. But I think if T1 play as a team and they keep their distance, I think you can just poke out the Viego, poke out the Senna, the Akali before the fight even gets going. So I'm curious to see how it will go. It will come down to some execution, but I do like T1's draft.
Yeah. So Lux is technically a support, but in this case, she's not going to be building a support item because it's fasting Senna, so she's going to get a lot more damage than she would otherwise, so that's something to keep in mind. She started the Doran's Ring here. We'll see what else she decides to build. Might go into Luden's very quickly to have a lot of extra burst potential. If you look at the targets that Viego can copy, it's actually pretty insane. Like, besides the Karma, which in some cases might be like okay for like 1 second in a fight, but you look at the Ezreal is like the best target to clone in the meta right now because you can jump forward, you can hit Qs, you're going to do a ton of damage, you get an extra jump. Like, he already has his Heartbreaker to close a gap, so getting an Ezreal is pretty insane. You can get a Rumble, it's going to do a lot of damage in that crazy skirmish where you're getting those resets, and a Twisted Fate too helps you lock down that target that's running away. So I like the Viego for that reason. I just don't know if he will get those resets in the fights. Is Harp?
Yeah. It's kind of an unfortunate trade, but again, it is Ezreal Karma. At level 1, you should be taking huge chunks out of your enemy laners. Otherwise, you're doing it wrong. So good job so far from Teddy and Keria lining up the angles to get that poke.
This lane is not quite the beast that like Caitlyn Lux was in the past or anything like that either, but you do have a lot of poke, and you are going to be able to consistently trade against an Ezreal here with your E as Lux. Like, that, you can't miss that really, as Keria is going to go very good.
He's igniting. I mean, they're going for the kill, and there it is, first blood. 2 minutes, 27 seconds. Keria says, get out of my lane.
Well, I guess, we could talk about what you could do in terms of sustain, how much poke you have, but if Keria is just going to walk forward and get that ignite off and get a kill, then I guess that's all that matters, in the early parts of this. This Harp is just going to try to sit here and CS as best as he can now, but he is not going to be able to stick around very easily. He's going to have to wait for Senna to come back. Now, we do see that Blank is in the near vicinity, so if they decided to try to really push the issue, might have a little bit of a fight here, but will not actually occur. Only 3 minutes into the game, this first blood happens. Yeah. Pretty rare for LCK standards nowadays.
It's just Keria seeing an opportunity and Noah not exactly respecting it. I mean, he didn't even heal. Definitely a little bit of a mistake. I say a little bit, but it gave up first blood. So now we're going to see Cuz hanging around. He is going to be spotted by Blank, and because the bottom lane of T1 goes back, he will have to give up this scuttle. But he can go up to the top side and take that down. Unfortunately, he did spend a lot of time actually, missing farm while he was doing this. Yep. And he might not even get the scuttle with the priority from top lane.
Yeah, Blank's over here.
Faker has no idea. They have zero idea that Doran is here.
Yikes.
This was not communicated. Nobody knew on the side of T1, and he just slips on down and picks up a kill.
This is the kind of telecom where you and I thought we were going to get today, as this time the heal goes through. Oh boy.
Yeah, saving it for the second fight, I guess.
This has been an interesting early game to say the least, Valdez. But Faker goes down. He still has a pretty significant CS lead. As we are going to watch this Ignite play once again.
Yeah.
He's in the brush. They don't see him.
Calling for level 2. I'm going to go
피
for
많이
it.
갈았다. 바텀 딸피.
Yep.
와우.
He's super low.
나이스.
Got him. Wow. Nice.
이거
Almost
세나
couldn't
테라
believe it. And then we're going to watch this play once again. Faker is just completely collapsed on all sides. There's no call that Doran is here. Like, he clearly would not have been there if he knew that Doran was there. And that's a bad math breed. There's a bad communication. That was a bit weird.
Yeah.
Like, he had been gone for a while, you know?
Yeah. Also, they knew that Blank was right down there on the bottom side of the river. So you got to play it a little bit careful in that sense. And the lack of knowledge about Doran being there certainly did hurt them. So, yeah, just trading back the kill. Of course, still going to be a win at the end of the day for T1, as the last time Lux was played was Barrel's win into Keria, as Keria was playing Pike in that game.
As Keria is often want to do. Okay, this is not a great place to be.
Harp is going to get ignited again, and the binding is going to miss. Harp is going to have to flash here, but he's still absolutely dead. The TP comes in. Cuz is here. And Doran is going to have to back away, as he's even going to get rooted down. And they're still trading here as Noah tries to push them away.
It's not the first time we've seen KT try something a little bit out of the box here on the bottom side of the map. We've heard rumblings about Enchanter supports being meta and actually being played in scrims for what feels like about 3 months now here, but it's never actually really happened outside of the Karma pick and the Lulu. And now we're seeing this Lux come through, but we saw KT, they were the first team to actually play, like, technically the support Lee Sin, right? And that didn't go well for them. It feels like another situation where it's a cool idea, but this is clearly not as well practiced as a lot of the other comps we're seeing them run the bottom lane, a lot of the more meta comps. Like, what is this heal? Like, you're trying to catch them with Doran here, but they're already so far out. Even if Cuz wasn't there, like, it just feels like desperation on the bottom lane, and it's a cool idea, right? Like, I like it, and I'm glad to cast it because it's really fun and it's different, but the performance we're seeing does not make me confident this is something they've been running a lot in scrims that they really feel is top tier right now. It feels more of like ooh, this draft has gone a little bit off the rails, let's give this a go, it might throw them for a spin. But no, Teddy and Keria are one of the strongest bot lanes in the world, and they are not fazed by this. They are absolutely dominating this, and we keep seeing these roots hit repeatedly for Keria. They're not respecting the range you need to be away from a Karma so that you don't get rooted.
Yeah. The thing about the Karma is that she has so much speed, goes for the tier 2 boots right from the get-go. Like, good luck hitting anything when she's inspired and running at you as Lux, right? Or as Senna. You know, nothing's really going to get the Karma away from you. And if she's already ahead in the lane, which she was at level 1, level 2, then she's going to be very aggressive in getting in your face, getting those roots down, and it was just not respected, I think, by the KT bot lane, as you mentioned. Faker here, 80% win rate in 15 games on Twisted Fate. Pretty good.
Yeah, kind of shocking that he's only played 15 games of it, actually. Would have expected a lot higher of a number, just considering how long he's been a mid laner, but yeah. Pretty high win rate. Blank's going to make another visit. Oh, if he uses this gold card.
Yeah, certainly baited here. Nice dodge on the Shuriken. Faker will be able to step away from that one. As here we go again. I mean, this is not going to be a fun time. I mean, Ezreal is just farming by himself under the turret while this happens.
I mean, she built a phage early. Going to help the trading, I guess, but yeah, Senna early on, not a whole lot of souls. Doesn't have any attack speed, so even in these kind of trade exchanges, your attack animation and your attack speed is so slow that you actually just, if you make a mistake, you get punished for it so heavily into an Ezreal that now has a Sheen online. So he's going to actually roam up here for this Rift Herald fight, but T1 have such a better position that this ends up being wasted.
They're going to leash it.
Oops.
I don't know.
Oh no, Valdez, what are we watching?
It's okay because KT has no chance in the world to actually come in here and challenge this. But yeah, it's going to waste some time for sure. KT not going to respond with the Drake or anything like that, even though they had some vision control down on the bottom side. Kind of unfortunate. As Blank not confident to go for that objective. Things still looking really good for T1. I mean, all the lanes are doing well. The CS difference in the top side for Doran is nice.
Yeah.
But other than that, it's been kind of the T1 show so far.
We have a Bandleglass Mirror for Harp, by the way, so he is building more support instead of damage, and that's obviously going to help his mana in the lane, so that's part of the reason why he's gone for this for the laning part. We'll see what he builds next, but I hope we don't see him end up building, you know, super support-based items, because I think in this comp, you need to have that extra Lux damage. You need to get those kills, you need to get the resets, the picks that you were talking about earlier. So we'll see how this build goes. Might just be a bit of an adaptation considering the lane is going so poorly, but not entirely sure just yet. It's our first time seeing Lux in this meta, so give it some time before we see this item build fully come online. As up on the top side of the map, we haven't talked about this part of the match too much because it hasn't really had any action in it, but it's been a very strong lane here for Doran into a tough matchup on the Jace. Like, pretty impressive start.
I actually don't understand how Kana got so far behind on CS. I mean, Doran was out of the lane, pushing down into the river to help out with the Scuttle Crab fight. He also teleported down to the bottom lane in that kind of failed counter gank, right? Kana was left on an island by himself to push plates. He was only able to get one, and he's also down 15 CS, so maybe we need to check the replay, but things are looking kind of strange up there for the Jace.
It certainly has been pretty weird. He has got the lane pretty pushed right now, but Blank is playing a bit of a Malrong game here right now. Faker, if he pushes forward, he will be vulnerable, but he's really respecting the positioning. Well, I say that.
I think he saw Blank walk in there. They have it warded. And because there's no jungle, you see Carry and Teddy are just like, we're just going to take your entire turret if you don't come down here and help. So things, once again, going very well. 2,000 gold in the lead here for T1. Only the Cloud Drake really was picked up by KT. Keep in mind that the Rift Herald still hasn't even been used.
Yeah. That's going to be a big extra chunk of gold to come through.
Oh, no.
As he's still here. Now, there's no ward in this brush right now, but the control ward that's in the
They saw
brush
him,
is the problem. And Faker still might get caught.
Yeah, he's just going to move away from the ultimate. No stun comes in, and Faker just kind of laughs at them. As he's able to flash away, trades it with the Volibear, and he'll be happy to do so.
I think I know what emote's coming through chat right now, but it was actually pretty calmly handled from Faker, and he knew that the Volibear was, you know, in the vicinity, so ended up dodging the ult there and doesn't have to do anything but flash. As Carry is here.
Like this, the flash comes in, and no Shroud here for Dub. He does have the equalizer as well, as easily Dub will be taken down. Really nice team play there from T1, because it also opens up the Rift Herald to push in and take this turret.
That's going to be a ton of extra gold coming through here. Blank's rotating over here with Harp to try to defend this, but can't really win a straight-up fight. You're not going to be able to deny the Rift Herald. So guess who's getting extra gold in the bottom lane, who's already ahead? It's Teddy, who's having a great time this game. He didn't get those kills earlier, but he got a little bit of extra assist gold. He's obviously got a pretty massive CS lead over the Lux.
He has a free lane, right? I mean, that bottom lane is just an Ezreal paradise right now.
He's already gotten 2 plates on top of that, too. Sure, he's gotten only half the gold from that. But we're going to watch this fight once again. It's really well played here by Keria. Comes through, Mantra's the speed boost, gets the root, and Cuz comes over just to guarantee the kill. As that was just a bit of a... We accidentally put the stinger up. Nothing happened.
Nobody saw that.
Sometimes you gotta have that flyby stinger just to be like, yeah, LCK.
Kana, even though he did fall behind on CS, you can see that the 3 plates are easily shoring up the gold for him up in the top side. And things are going to be good for him. He's built that tier. He's got the Eclipse. And now that T1 are ahead, this is kind of what I was talking about when we saw the comps. Once we get into team fights, like, how is KT even going to get close to this composition? I'm curious to see how they try to solve this problem.
Yeah, I'm curious about it too. A lot of it's going to hinge on the power that we're going to... I mean, a lot of it can be based on Lux hitting bindings, but no offense to Harp here, he's one of my new favorite players this season. He hasn't been so great with that so far.
Oh, no. This is what happens. I mean, Karma just dodges everything, and so does the Ezreal. Faker's going to come in here and clean up, as that'll be 2 kills. TP now looking for Teddy's going to land that, but the stun comes in, and Dove will be clean on the kill, picks that up, and will walk away with his life at least.
Yeah, he's not going to be able to save the turret plates from going down, but, you know, he ends up trading back a kill, gets some extra gold. But yeah, I mean, we see Shirelia's picked up here, and that's all fine and good for movement and mobility in this composition, but I don't think you're actually going to try to outpace T1's poke with movement speed here from the Shirelias, you know? Like, that's not going to help you too much in the lane either. I would have rather seen more damage here because I want to see KT actually get players down to lethal range with some pokes coming through from, you know, an E, and I actually didn't even see what she's building at. We'll get to take a look at that eventually at some point, but like, if you can poke some players down with big damage, then a Kali comes through and starts slicing people up who are low health. I mean, it can work. It can, but I'm not sold on this build. I'm not sold on Harp's performance here, unfortunately, in this game either. I mean, like you said, it's hard against the Karma, but
not a single skill shot hit. Okay, you're just not able to hit it against these two. Yeah, that's why this lane is so questionable at this point after seeing especially the early game.
Yeah, I do want to see if he's maxing out in terms of his skills. It's probably the E, but I hope so. And Volibear, we talked about earlier, he got that kill on Faker, but he needed to get a lot more impact in this game, especially with a permanently pushing bottom lane. He hovered mid instead of actually relieving any of the pressure bottom side. And now T1 going to collapse in here. Faker does not have his ultimate. So actually, I don't know if they can take this.
Yeah, they don't necessarily have to. The TP will be used, and KT say, okay, get away from the Drake, this is ours. But you're leaving a lot of lanes open, you're giving more gold to Faker and Kana while this happens, and it's not even sole point. I mean, it's just the second Drake. It's not the end of the day, and here we go. Dub is just being burnt down, and it looks like he will just barely survive, but again, he has to kind of evacuate the lane, and that's more pressure here for T1.
Yeah, T1 just have total control of the map. Like, Kana is going to take that top turret. No one is anywhere near him, and he knows it. He absolutely knows it. So he's able to free push this. And yes, the Drake advantage is pretty big for KT, but this is the kind of playstyle that we've seen T1 dominate with so much, is to ignore objectives, ignore some Drakes, ignore some Brit Trail fights to actually get Teddy an advantage on the bottom side of the map where everyone else is pushing top. Or then, you know, when everyone's grouped up mid, just get your top laner ahead, get Kana ahead. And this looks like a very common T1 game where it's like, you know, 5,000 gold up, composition skills better late game. We'll see if they can make the landing stick, right? Because that's where things have often started to be a little bit shaky for them. But just considering the performance we've seen from Harp so far, and the way this comp needs to really, I don't want to say snowball, but have a pretty big tempo advantage in the early game, and they haven't had that, I trust that T1 will be able to close this game out. But the one way back into this, perhaps for KT, is to win a next Drake fight here and have that sole point and have a little bit more power and pressure around the Drake because of that, you know, 3-0 advantage. But I mean,
yeah,
it's not looking great so far.
Well, they have more Divine Sunderers.
They've
got that going for them.
Joke.
Yeah, that's one of the maybe two things that they have going for them in this game. You know, you talked about sticking the landing. This isn't the easiest comp ever to play, but I think it's generally easy enough for T1, and I would be extremely surprised if from here it wasn't just closed out. I mean, Kana, everything we've said about the CS doesn't really matter because he has a bounty at this point in time, so does Faker. A lot of that is just in plates and in farm, as Doran is going to have some support from Noah here, so they're not going to die just yet, but again, total map control here to T1.
Exactly. This is the part of the game where you're like, wait, T1 actually could just chase KT around the map and fight them because their comp is just so disjointed. It doesn't have great synergy unless you end up getting picks where you have a vision advantage or you have a positional advantage. You know, if you have like Drake Cryo and you can toss out a few, you know, E's from Harp, then maybe you can actually get that damage done, start the poke war, and then end up having the hard engage to finish it up. But like you said, when you have this much map control, T1 has the massive item advantage that allows him to just chase around the map. Like, Faker's a whole item up. Like you said, he has that bounty. He has the rapid fire cannon, which makes him so much more deadly. He has a stopwatch too, so he can be anywhere. He can do anything, right? There's not much that KT could do to answer that right now. You know, you're not going to beat the Jace in the side lane either, so I mean, this is that ultimate right there is the state of the game.
Oh no, Rumble's here too. This is what we talked about in terms of target acquisition. You have 7 or 8 different ways to come from 3 different angles with this composition. You hop in with Faker and then the Rumble follow-up. That's a really basic one. We saw it there. And Harp is like trying desperately to keep his distance and farm his Lux, but even he can't do that.
Yeah, he can't. Like, he's just so desperate. He's using his ult on waves, you know, which Lux does oftentimes, but even to ult that wave, he put himself in the risk to die. Like, one of the longest range ultimates, one of the longest range wave clear tools in League of Legends is still not safe enough.
Yeah.
And it's with Rapid Fire Cannon too, Faker has that guaranteed gold card. And it's just going to be so frustrating to play against in these next fights. And KT, I think, have to make a stand for this Drake. But look at the vision that they don't have. 3 control wards, scuttle control. This Tri-Brush is under control. You have no mid turret, you have no bot turret, nothing. And,
KT are going to keep that one ward. I thought maybe Harp would have to be taught a lesson again there, but he's going to back away. Yeah, and at this point, and this is why T1 gives up that second Drake, because, yeah, sure, I mean, get them out and whatever. Now we're going to take everything else. And they had a ward to help spot this out, by the way, even though they would have seen the laser coming in, but allows them to react even quicker.
Yep. Noah comes over on the side, but there's nothing he can do. He's not having a great game himself. It's the way the lane state went. Why doesn't have too many souls. It's, you know, sink or swim here for KT on this last Drake fight. If you let this Drake go, then T1 just start what is going to be a massive set of Infernal Drakes they're going to get, which will make this even harder to come back in. That's like the one Drake you really don't want T1 to have, but they're going to get it. Because like, you can't contest this, but if you don't fight, you start to lose control of the map. There's a Rift Herald here crashing not into the mid turret, not the outer turret, the inner turret.
Yeah, they're not even going for the dragon just yet. They're still trying to get even more value, and they can take that because the map is theirs. Now they can easily back away onto the Infernal Drake. You see that Dove is trying to go for split pushes, but again, there's a TF with teleport on the map, so I think that's going to be a short-lived plan. Just trying to farm out because he knows he can't do anything in a real fight. As they're trying to get on top of Doran, who's relatively tanky, and with the TP coming in here, maybe KT can get something on the back of this as Keria and Kana are going to be caught out, although Keria is not going to get out. As here we go, follow-up coming on in. They're trying to get on top of Cuz as well, as he might be in a bit of trouble. You see Teddy trying to kite them out, but not quite able to. And this is a bit unfortunate for KT, or rather T1, that they have kind of bled a couple of members, but at the same time they get the Infernal. It's not the end of the world.
It's not the end of the world, but this is the beginning of the crack starting to show, right? Like, we've seen T1 best goal difference in the league at 25 minutes, but when the game goes a little bit longer, sometimes they make some small mistakes like this that end up allowing teams to come back into the game, allowing some super late game scaling comps to actually come back and bite them. Everyone remembers that Live Sandbox game with the Vayne, right? That's one of those T1 games where it feels like there's no way, there's no world in which you lose that game, but the scaling does come through. Now, the composition of KT does have the Senna scaling argument, but it's not really a supreme late game comp where it's like, okay, well, T1 might actually lose some tempo here, and then KT slow down the game, and they just want this to be as long as possible. It's not that kind of game, but just some small mistakes here and some really big oversteps from T1. It ends up costing them big because they have Rumble solo on the Drake right now. He can't step away from that. And you have to respect that this composition of T1, rather, it needs to all be grouped to actually fight properly. In these skirmishes, you will just get run down by a Polybear who can stun you, as an Akali with him who can engage from long range. You know, you can't just be in these small, you know, 2v3 fights as T1 right now. You're not that ahead.
Yeah, and it was just one ward, you know, that they didn't spot out. They spotted the TP a little bit late, and they were way far down the lane and didn't react on time. So a little mistake turns into a bit of a bigger one. But again, at the end of the day, it's not the end of the world here. T1 are still in firm control of this map. You can see, I mean, KT, they're going to have to basically climb a mountain to even begin a team fight with all the poke on the side of T1.
Yeah, I mean, this is just one example of T1's ability to just turn on you, and you have to walk away. You have to respect, but then you don't have vision whatsoever. Like, they could all be in that brush. You have to like slowly group up to toss a ward in there to clear it. But by the time you're here,
they do have the Lux. The Lux is going to help out in terms of vision. Again, the question is, can they deal with the turn? As we got a, you know, Teddy's still doing the Baron. Faker comes over and he's trying to turn maybe a little bit earlier than his teammates wanted to there, so they're not going to finish the Baron, still just looking for picks.
And if we zoom in on this one moment, you know, where T1 did have that vision control and they did look for a Baron play to you know, have that turn and crush KT, then take the Baron, and then potentially just the game with it. You know, maybe even get an inhibitor with that. Well, hold that thought.
All right, 2v1, this should be difficult for Faker. He's trying to get out of here, though, as he will. Maybe a little bit too close, but actually with the Everfrost, he will be fine. As Kana still having fun when it's 1v1. How about a snipe? Nope. Not quite, not this time, but it should be the snipe on the turret, potentially.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they're going to group up now. Doran needs to actually back off. But, you know, I was going to say, T1 in that moment, showing a little bit of hesitation, a little bit of miscommunication. Those were the things we were talking about. Now, it's not going to affect this game because they're still massively ahead, but small moments like that or where the T1 cracks begin to show sometimes, but in this game, it's just a little bit too far gone. Yeah, they fail the turn and they don't get the Baron, but they could just try it again in a few minutes anyways because they have control over the map, and that's not going to change anytime soon. They can reset and look for a second Infernal Drake here. There's just not much KT can do about it. Now, if KT actually group up and get Prio, maybe, just maybe, they can have that miracle fight. You know, Death Cap is done here for Dove. That's going to be a lot of extra damage for him coming through. It's a bit of a desperate build. It's the second item here, but sometimes desperate times call for desperate measures. It might be just enough to help get Doran that reset so he can start popping off in the team fight. A lot of ifs here. The kill score is even, but the compositions are really where the difference lies.
Yep. Now, you got to be careful doing this, okay? They're going to get some information now with the ward, but just charging down the lane. The ability to hard engage here on the side of KT is still there. And if they blow one person up, they begin to roll that into more. There's still an opportunity, but at this point, they are down 7,000 gold. As the Israelis will be popped, just looking for some options here.
Okay, they're going to get that Prio I was talking about, but is it really enough of an advantage here? I mean, I say they get it, but Cuz is actually on the pit itself. You can see Dove down below. Could flank if Carrier decides to overstep.
Yeah. Kind of like how KT are playing this. They're like, okay, one binding and maybe we can do something.
Yeah.
Otherwise, no. just back away. They do have some sustain with this Senna, but it's not going to be easy. They have pulled this Drake into a really nice spot, but they can't really deny Cuz entry into this one. The equalizer comes in, and that's going to be the easy smite. Late on the laser there, as there was no hope really of stealing that one away, and now that's 2 Infernal Drakes to T1.
2 Infernal in a row, and I don't think it'll be the last we see. With KT Rolster taking so much poke damage in this fight from the Jason, mostly the Ezreal here, Teddy doing so much, they know that there's a timing where KT have to back, and so they're going to go over here and try to start this Baron. Now, there's vision on the Baron for KT, but just seeing the Baron alone is not going to allow you to stop it. So this is just going to be impossible to deter. As you mentioned, Lux used her ult. She doesn't have it.
They're going. They're trying to get in here and steal it, but they will not, as Doran is not a jungler.
And T1 don't actually turn on him because they didn't have a whole lot of vision there. So they just decided we might as well back off because what if KT's a little bit closer than we thought?
Now this TP.
A little bit questionable.
Okay, Kana's really fast, but Faker less fast. He does have his Zanyas and a flash, but he is just dead. A little bit greedy there to try to save that outer turret at this point in time. So a nice equalizer will come in. T1 thinking about going in, and that's going to be the kill, but immediately traded back. As Jace is doing some insane damage, and now they don't want to get on in here, but Carrier has other ideas. So he'll be able to acquire yet another target. There's another slow, as Teddy is just chunking even Bola Bears at this point in time. Doesn't have that much armor.
You hit your Akali combo, you can get a kill, yes, but you will never win the extended fight, not when everyone's grouped on T1. Their composition just isn't able to do that anymore. And this is just an absolute smashing right now for T1. They have total control over the game. They have the Baron buff here. They're going to push down this inhibitor. And with Dove respawning here, they can definitely look for more. 3 minutes until the Drake. But T1 have actually thrown away a lot of these leads before by getting a little bit too excited, getting a little bit too antsy. So I suppose the call is going to be to come back here. As we're going to watch this once again. Bit of an aggressive TP coming through from Kana. Then you see the landing here of Faker. But look at how much damage is actually done in this moment when we follow through. Like when we fast forward here, look at how much poke is actually onto the KT roster members. Everybody starts to get down to half, 2/3 health, and by the time that Jace poke is there, you can't be here anymore. So yeah, you get the 1 kill back, but that's all you can get. And with the mantra, that Keria has to actually spoon boost people forward, you don't get out either as KT. Like you're not going to be able to escape.
That one segment of the replay was just a fantastic example of just how much damage there is in League of Legends right now.
Yeah,
it's like 26 minutes in, the Akali goes in and it's about 0.15 seconds, kills a target, immediately dies herself, and you barely even see what happened. Like, everybody just dies immediately in this game, especially when there is this much damage on the Rift. So now T1 looking for more. And I don't think they'll be denied here. There are some nice bindings and stuff like that. Dove is pretty insane with the amount of damage that he does do with his death cap.
Yeah, you have to respect him. If you don't have a gold card ready, you might be able to get out, but it's just so hard because even if you do execute a target, if you trade and die for it, then you can't threaten anybody else, and T1 just walk forward and attack. Their comp is just so easy to execute when they are grouped up like this. Doran's like, maybe I can get a stun, maybe we can get a root to follow it up, but it's so hard.
Blank nearly dies on the left side. Equalizer will easily get this in as the TP from Faker now. They've got 2 inhibitors down. And with the nope. Nope, they're going to run out of that, and they're just going to get out of there.
T1 is just better safe than sorry. And he has been sorry a few times, sadly, this season. Both of these telecom teams have actually had series that could have gone their way if they had ended up playing a better late game with the lead they had. Because KT has had some extremely dominant early games. T1, like I said, 25 minutes, #1 in terms of goal difference in the league, and with a 3-3 scoreline, that's pretty shocking. But what does that tell you? It tells you that sometimes the later parts of the game, even with advantages, don't go so well. So this game, they are just going to play it extremely safe because you basically cannot lose this game as T1. Like, it is almost impossible to do. Unless you make a huge mistake, you teleport the wrong spot, somebody's just walking down mid, as we've seen a few close calls for them against KT's composition. But if you are grouped on an objective, how can you lose a fight? How can you not be grouped when you have prio in mid and bot because you have 2 inhibitors? It's just, if you try to push the Nexus there and you die and lose the game, like, it's going to feel bad. I don't think they would have died. I think they would have probably won the game, but why risk it, I guess, is the idea here. And now they're just going to group up for an easy 3rd Infernal Drake.
Yeah. I mean, what's better than pushing to end the game than, an extra Infernal Drake, I suppose. You thought 2 was good, but I guess 3 is even better. And it's not like KT are going to have a significant amount of time to scale up or anything like that to catch up. So might as well just do this. This is also a minute and a half for the Baron if they really wanted to just lock it down. But maybe you just take this, group up as 5 after buying all your items, and go in and end the game.
If Dove actually finds Keria here, he does not have vision.
He's gonna try to get him, nearly takes him out there. You can see that Dove, he was looking for the kill, but he wasn't going to stick around for very long. Trying to get in and out.
Exactly, because if you actually go, oh, I almost got it, let me go in, let me flash for this, then somehow you die, and Keria gets away because he's super speedy, and then you just can't defend your base. Their one hope in this game is actually Dove executing somebody out of position, and he almost made it happen. He was so close. That's as close as it feels like KT are going to get in this game, because you can't pull that one off. I mean, it's just, you're not going to get opportunities like that much more with one controller, one sect of vision on the whole map, one pocket for Dove to find an advantage in.
Yeah.
And it's just, 20% of a health bar too low damage. He's got a Zhonya's now, right? So, I mean, there is an opportunity in an extended fight for them to pop off if all the damage comes through. It's, if you're a KT fan right now, this game feels like from the draft you were a little bit worried. But it is just your worst nightmare. And you're hoping for a better draft in game 2.
Yeah, try to reset this one and pretend it didn't happen if you are a KT fan. But we'll see. I mean, the game isn't over. Although it certainly does feel that way. We'll see if KT can get any picks. That's really the name of the game here. As now Teddy's kind of just going 1v4.
Yeah, worst case scenario is Dove to lose health because he needs to be full to actually get in and actually execute that combo and kill somebody. If he's at even, 3/4 health, he might actually die before he gets that kill.
Yeah. It's just, again, I mean, you look at these compositions, even if it was even, like, you can't get near them as KT. Like, you're always going to be held at arm's length, and there's not really much you can do unless you find an engage, a hard angle.
Yeah, or somebody makes a mistake, right?
Yeah.
And now Dub's, he's cleaning up the base. This is a 4v5 fight that KT can't take. Doran's trying to flank.
And at this point, I don't think they even want to flip Barons. They're just going to go for the kills as somehow Blank will survive. Actually, TP does come in. Teddy a little bit overstepping his boundaries, but you can see that Senna just dies. Dub is trying his best, but at this point, buddy, it's a little bit too late. So that's going to be 3 kills. Teleports will come in, and T1 will look to end this game.
Very impressive, you know, adaptation here from T1 in the draft. Their draft ended up being a lot cleaner. They dealt with the Akali super well. She'll be 0-3 now.
Yeah.
In recent games.
And they're looking for more. Gary's going to be taken down by the Fountain, but his sacrifice is not in vain, as even the equalizer was available after all that. That's game number 1, easily taken here by T1.